Adrian Cole controlled a multi-billion-dollar empire from his glass-walled perch in the sky, convinced real power meant never needing anyone below him. But one catastrophic night shattered everything, leaving him ruined and unexpectedly reliant on his housekeeper's overlooked daughter. When Naomi quietly asked if she could inspect his crashed systems, Adrian almost laughed. What could a mid-20s community college coder do that his elite engineers couldn't? But there was one crucial thing the fallen tycoon didn't know. The young woman, standing in his penthouse, someone he'd barely acknowledged, was about to become either his redemption or his destruction, and she was the only person alive who could prove the betrayal came from inside his own boardroom. Before we dive back in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And if these kinds of stories keep you hooked, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next episode. Adrian Cole faced the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office. 63 stories up, surveying the metropolis that had turned him into a legend. His reflection stared back, impeccable charcoal suit, salt and steel hair styled with surgical precision. Far below, streets churned with people who would never know what it felt like to command a tech conglomerate worth billions. He smirked faintly, swirling whiskey in a crystal tumbler. This was his kingdom, raised from nothing but ambition and calculated ruthlessness. "Mr. Cole?" A wavering voice clipped through the quiet. Adrian turned, his expression cooling instantly. Ethan Grady, his IT director, hovered in the doorway, gripping a tablet like a lifeline. Sweat beaded on his temple despite the perfectly calibrated AIR conditioning. "This better be critical, Grady. I finalized the Kingsley acquisition in 20 minutes. Ethan stepped farther in, swallowing. "Sir, it's about the new AI engine. Our security team flagged unusual activity. It could be a breach. We're seeing anomalous behavior in the core." Adrian set his glass down with a soft click. "Could be a breach?" Ethan nodded nervously. "We aren't fully sure yet, but the patterns are alarming. I recommend a full diagnostic before launch. Pause tomorrow's rollout until we're confident everything's clean." "Before what exactly?" Adrian's voice sliced the room. "Before we seal the biggest deal of the decade. Before we rewrite predictive investing. Do you understand what's riding on tomorrow?" Ethan flinched. "Yes, sir. But if someone accessed our core systems, then they'll meet the most advanced encryption on the market," Adrian cut in, snatching a folder from his desk. "I didn't build Cole quantum systems by jumping at shadows. The platform is fine. Your job is to make sure tomorrow's presentation is flawless." Ethan's jaw tensed, but he nodded. "Understood, sir." As the IT director retreated, Adrian returned to his windows. The city glittered with promise. Tomorrow, he'd unveil technology that would make him untouchable. Tomorrow, his legacy would be etched in steel and code. He had no idea tomorrow would never arrive. That night, Adrian worked late, combing through projections and investor portfolios. His assistant had gone hours ago. The cleaning crew had finished, leaving the tower humming with the low murmur of after-hours ambition. Alone with his empire, exactly how he liked it, Adrian tapped through encrypted dashboards. At 11:47 p.m., his monitor flickered. He frowned, tapped a key. The screen went black, then exploded with red alerts and cascading error messages, piling faster than he could read. His phone vibrated violently across the desk. "Cole," he answered sharply. "Sir, we've got a situation," Ethan blurted, voice taut. "The servers are collapsing, all of them." Adrian's blood ran cold. "What do you mean, all?" "Every system tied to the AI engine." They're failing in sequence. We're trying to contain it, but it's spreading like wildfire. This is the breach I tried to warn you about." Adrian was already on his feet, grabbing his jacket and heading for the private elevator. "I'm coming down. No one leaves." The descent to the server floor felt endless. When the doors parted, chaos swallowed him. Engineers crowded around glowing monitors, faces ghostly in emergency lighting. A thin veil of acrid smoke curled from one rack, stinging the air. Ethan stood at the center, barking orders that no one seemed able to execute fast enough. "Talk to me," Adrian demanded. Ethan turned. Exhausted eyes ringed with red. "Someone planted a back door months ago. It's been dormant until tonight. Now it's detonating everything. The algorithm is self-corrupting, dragging legacy systems down with it. Shut it off," Adrian snapped. "We're trying," Ethan said tightly. "But whoever did this knew our architecture intimately. They're tunneling through our own security. Every time we seal one route, another opens." He yanked up a display showing code spilling like a waterfall. "And it's not just destruction. They're copying data as they burn it." Adrian felt the room tilt. "Copying it where?" "We haven't traced the endpoint yet. But your algorithm, investor files, proprietary frameworks, everything's streaming out. By the time we chase it, they'll already have it all." Night stretched into a brutal dawn as Adrian watched his empire cannibalize itself. By 6 a.m., the devastation was undeniable. Overloaded racks had burned out. Critical data sets were corrupted beyond salvage. Worst of all, competitors began receiving mysterious packages containing Cole Quantum's most guarded trade secrets. News vans appeared outside the building before breakfast. Adrian stared from his office as satellite trucks multiplied like mold across the plaza. His phone never stopped ringing. Investors, board members, reporters, all demanding explanations he didn't have. His assistant hovered at the doorway, clinging to a stack of messages she was afraid to deliver. "Mr. Cole," she said quietly, "the board called an emergency session. They're saying—" She trailed off, eyes dropping. "Saying what?" he pressed. "They're saying you need to step down." The meeting was a bloodbath. Adrian sat at the head of the table he'd dominated for 15 years, facing men and women he'd mentored, promoted, trusted. Their faces were cool, distant, already decided. Marcus Lang spoke first. Tall, polished, his smile perpetually practiced. He'd been Adrian's right hand since their startup days. "Adrian, we all respect what you've built," Marcus began. "But this disaster happened on your watch. Investors are fleeing. Our stock dropped 40% overnight. We need decisive action." "Decisive action," Adrian repeated, voice dangerously soft. "Or a convenient scapegoat." "Don't make this emotional," another director cut in. "This is about protecting the company." "The company I created," Adrian shot back. Marcus leaned forward, expression sympathetic but hard. "The company that just hemorrhaged billions," he said smoothly. "We're offering you a generous exit package. Take it, walk away with your reputation as intact as possible." Adrian scanned their faces, seeing the truth. They weren't giving him anything. They were stripping him of everything. "And if I refuse?" Marcus's smile thinned. "Then we vote, and you know exactly how that ends." The tally was unanimous, 12-1. Even those Adrian had personally recruited raised their hands against him. Security waited in the hallway before the doors opened. "You'll need to surrender your badges and company devices," Marcus said, standing. "We'll have your personal belongings delivered to your residence." Adrian rose slowly. movements controlled despite the inferno inside. He studied Marcus's satisfied expression, committing it to memory. "You orchestrated this. I salvaged this company from your incompetence," Marcus replied, gesturing to the guards. "Gentlemen, please escort Mr. Cole from the premises." The walk to the elevator was the longest of Adrian's life. Employees he'd never bothered to know watched him pass, some pitying, others quietly pleased. Security flanked him like he'd been caught stealing. When the elevator doors shut, cutting off whispers and phone cameras, Adrian finally exhaled. Outside, reporters swarmed. Flashes popped. Microphones shoved toward his face like spears as questions collided around him. "Mr. Cole, how does it feel to lose everything? Did you ignore security warnings? Are criminal charges coming?" Adrian pushed through silently and slid into the back of his town car. His driver mercifully said nothing as they pulled away from Cole Quantum Systems. The penthouse felt like a tomb. Adrian moved through rooms that had once hosted senators, celebrities, and billionaires, now echoing with emptiness. His wife had left 6 months earlier, tired of living with a ghost. His son had cut ties even longer ago, with nothing left to distract him. The silence screamed. He heard the vacuum before he saw her. Elena Foster had cleaned his penthouse for nearly 5 years. A gentle-eyed woman in her early 50s, she worked with quiet efficiency and unshakable dignity. She never asked personal questions, never gossiped, never expected more than a brief nod. Adrian had treated her like part of the furniture, as long as her paycheck cleared. Now she stepped into the doorway, carrying a mug on a small tray. "Mr. Cole, I thought you might need this," she said softly. Adrian looked from the steaming tea to her face. For the first time, he really saw her. The concern in her gaze, the careful way she set the cup down. "Thank you, Elena," he murmured. She nodded and turned to leave, then hesitated. "Sir, if I may, I'm sorry for what happened. It isn't right what they've done. You didn't deserve to be tossed aside like that." Something inside Adrian cracked. "I appreciate you saying that," he replied quietly. "My daughter, she's good with computers," Elena added shyly. "She goes to community college, always talking about code and systems I don't understand. If you ever need help with that stuff..." Adrian almost scoffed. Help from a community college student, a cleaner's kid. But he swallowed the reflexive insult, tasting bitterness. "That's kind of you," he said instead. Elena left him alone with his tea and the ruins of his life. Adrian didn't sleep. All night he sat in his home office, staring at financial statements spelling absolute annihilation. Investor lawsuits would drain whatever assets remained. His accounts were frozen pending investigation. His reputation, once bulletproof, was radioactive. The next morning, a courier arrived with the final blow, a foreclosure notice officially stamped and inescapable, granting him 30 days to vacate. He read it 3 times before the words sank in. Bankrupt, homeless, finished. Voices drifted from the kitchen. Elena was on the phone, speaking in a low, worried tone. "No, sweetheart, it really is that bad. But he's a good man under it all. He's just lost right now. I'm scared he's alone in this huge place." "Yes, I'll be careful. Love you too." That evening, Adrian sat in the dim living room with a bottle of scotch, watching the city lights smear together. His laptop glowed on the coffee table. Empty desktop, taunting him. He tried accessing old backups, shadow servers, anything that might salvage a fragment of his empire. Every path was blocked, wiped, or corrupted. He didn't hear footsteps until someone spoke. Mr. Cole? Adrian turned. A young woman stood in the archway, mid-20s, sharp eyes, natural curls pulled into a neat bun, jeans, simple sweater, laptop bag slung over one shoulder. Elena's daughter, clearly. "My mom's worried about you," she said plainly. "She asked me to stop by after class." "I'm fine," Adrian muttered. "With respect, sir, you don't look fine." She stepped closer, glancing at the laptop. "Is that what's left of your system, the one that imploded?" "What's left of it," he admitted. There was a short pause. "Mr. Cole, maybe I could take a look?" The suggestion hit like a slap. He almost laughed. This kid, who probably learned Python from YouTube, thought she could solve what his elite team couldn't. But her expression wasn't arrogant or pitying, just calmly confident. "I doubt you can help," he said, though the words lacked conviction. She didn't flinch. "Maybe, maybe not. But it can't get worse, right?" Adrian studied her, then gestured toward the chair beside him. "Knock yourself out." The next morning, Elena arrived early, her spare key jingling in the lock. She'd long made a habit of arriving before Adrian woke, brewing coffee and restoring order to whatever chaos he'd created overnight. Today, she found an unexpected sight. Adrian sat amid scattered papers and empty cups in the living room. Her daughter was beside him, hunched over a laptop. "Naomi, honey, what are you doing here?" Elena gasped. Naomi looked up, eyes red from an all-night screen marathon. "Mom, you have to see this." She spun the laptop toward them. "Someone didn't just hack Mr. Cole's system. They sabotaged it from the inside. Look at these code fragments. They're intentional. Someone wanted everything to collapse." Adrian, equally exhausted, pointed at the monitor. "Your daughter is either a genius or some kind of miracle worker. I haven't decided which." Elena stepped closer, torn between pride and fear. "Naomi, you have class this morning," she reminded gently. "This matters more," Naomi insisted, fingers flying. "See this embedded string? It's the malware's signature. Whoever wrote it left a personalized mark, probably assuming nobody would dig this deep. If I can follow it, we can track the source." Adrian interrupted, old habits sharpening his tone. "It's not that simple. Corporate security isn't tracing calls in a thriller. You can't just follow code." Naomi didn't even look up. "Actually, you can. Programmers have patterns. Habits like handwriting. Their code leaves fingerprints. If I gather enough samples, I can map a profile. That would take weeks," Adrian objected. "Or a few hours," Naomi said, "if you stop interrupting me." Elena sucked in a breath at her daughter's audacity. Adrian, surprisingly, went quiet. He watched Naomi navigate his broken system like she'd built it herself, uncovering pathways he never knew existed. "There," she finally said, pointing at a set of timestamps. "This access point was created 4 months ago. Same credentials, same terminal, every time. Friday nights around 11, like clockwork. Whoever did this had high-level clearance, not some random hacker, an insider." Adrian leaned closer. "Can you tell who?" "Not yet," she replied. "But I can see when they logged in, what they touched, when they planted the malware." A calendar overlay appeared. "See the pattern? Every hit routes through one office machine." She tapped the label. Terminal ID matches Marcus Lang's private workstation. Adrian's breath caught. "Marcus, my business partner." "Former partner?" Naomi corrected gently. Adrian's mind spun, Marcus's eagerness to push him out, the perfectly timed board vote. How prepared everything had seemed. "He set me up," Naomi nodded. Looks that way, but proving it will be harder. The code's sophisticated. He covered most of his tracks. Just not all of them, Adrian said, feeling something like hope stir. You found his signature. There must be more. Maybe, Naomi replied, rubbing her eyes. But this isn't just about catching him. If Marcus has your algorithm, he's probably already weaponizing it. By the time we expose him, he could build a new empire on your stolen tech. The truth stung. Adrian paced. Then we move fast. Can you keep digging? Naomi glanced at her mother. Elena's face tightened with worry. Honey, maybe leave this to professionals. I am a professional, Naomi shot back. I just don't have a fancy diploma yet. It's not about your skills, it's about safety, Elena insisted. These people are powerful. Exactly why someone has to stand up to them, Naomi said, turning to Adrian. I'll help, but I need access to your old mainframe, the one at headquarters. If Marcus left anything, it's buried there. Adrian shook his head. I'm locked out. I can't even get past reception. Naomi's lips curved into a small, defiant smile. Good thing my mom still has her service entrance key. That night, the three of them stood in the alley behind Cole Quantum Systems. The tower loomed overhead, glass and steel reflecting streetlights like cold fire. Security cameras swept the obvious entrances, but the service door used by janitors and maintenance sat in shadow. Elena's hands trembled as she slid the key into the lock. If we're caught, we won't be, Naomi whispered. Mom, you know this building better than anyone? Can you guide us? Elena nodded reluctantly and led them through industrial corridors. They slipped past storage closets and cramped break rooms, climbing back stairwells built for people deemed unimportant. Adrian followed in silence, humbled by how much of his own building he'd never bothered to see. The server room roared with cooled air and humming machines. Naomi plugged her laptop into a forgotten terminal in the corner and got to work immediately. Okay, I'm inside. Their security's solid, but they're not expecting an intrusion from the custodial wing. Adrian kept watch near the door, while Elena hovered protectively behind her daughter. Minutes dragged. Footsteps echoed faintly somewhere above them. Naomi, Adrian hissed, we need to move. Almost there, she muttered, sweat beading at her hairline despite the cold. Just need to... Yes. She pulled up a directory, eyes widening. Mr. Cole, look, on screen. A hidden project tree glowed. Operation Hydra, stamped with Marcus's credentials. Files detailed the sabotage plan, the breach timeline, even covert communications with rival firms. It was all there, written with the arrogance of a man certain he'd never be caught. Can you copy it? Adrian asked. Naomi was already exporting. Duplicating to 3 separate encrypted drives. This is IT. This is what you needed. Heavy footsteps thudded overhead, growing louder. A nearby door slammed. Adrian's pulse spiked. How long? 30 seconds, Naomi said. A radio crackled in the hallway. Security to server room. Unauthorized activity at Terminal 7. 20 seconds, she added, voice tight. The door handle rattled. Done, Naomi whispered, ripping her laptop free and shoving it into her bag. Elena grabbed her arm and pulled her toward a narrow maintenance exit Adrian hadn't noticed. They hurried through twisting back passages as shouts erupted behind them. Radios squawked orders. Security flooded the server room too late. The trio slipped out into the alley, then walked briskly toward Elena's aging sedan parked a block away. They didn't run. Running drew attention. They moved like 3 ordinary night shift workers. Only once they were in the car, doors shut and engine humming, did Adrian exhale. In the back seat, Naomi clutched her laptop, grinning breathlessly. "That was insane," she whispered. Elena's knuckles whitened around the steering wheel. "Don't you ever drag me into that again." Yet, even as she scolded, a small smile tugged at her lips. Against every odd, they'd secured the evidence that could flip everything. Adrian caught Naomi's gaze in the rearview mirror. "When you said you knew computers, you undersold yourself." She met his eyes steadily. "People underestimate me all the time, Mr. Cole. I'm used to it." The weight in her words made Adrian's chest tighten. How many brilliant people had he dismissed because they didn't fit his narrow, polished mold of power? "I won't repeat that mistake," he said quietly. Naomi nodded and opened her laptop again. As Elena drove them through the sleeping city, Adrian watched the tower that had once defined his life recede in the distance. For the first time since the crash, he felt possibility. After their escape, Adrian found himself in unfamiliar terrain. Elena's modest two-bedroom apartment in a quiet, aging complex far from downtown glass and steel. The living room became their improvised war room. Naomi's laptop and scattered printouts colonizing every flat surface. Adrian sat on the sagging couch, watching Naomi decrypt files with fierce concentration. In the cramped kitchen, Elena brewed coffee for yet another late night. The apartment smelled like vanilla candles and last night's stew, so different from his sterile penthouse, it disoriented him. "Mr. Cole, you need to see this," Naomi called. He joined her at the folding table. On screen, encrypted messages scrolled, emails between Marcus and 3 board members, plotting a takeover months before the crash. The conspiracy ran deeper than Adrian had imagined. "They choreographed everything," Naomi said quietly. "The breach was just the trigger. They've been positioning themselves to push you out for almost a year." Adrian's jaw clenched. "I thought I was mentoring Marcus," he muttered. "Turns out I was just convenient camouflage." "There's more," Naomi said, switching files. "He's been feeding your competitors pieces of the algorithm for months, selling you off in fragments while pretending to protect the company." The betrayal burned. Marcus had stood beside him at his wedding. He'd held Adrian's newborn son. They'd built the company together, or so Adrian thought. Now he saw the truth. Marcus had waited for the perfect moment to strike, and Adrian's arrogance had given it to him. "Can we use this in court?" Adrian asked. "Maybe," Naomi said, "but emails alone aren't enough. We need logs tying Marcus's credentials directly to the sabotage code." She scrolled through dense lines of programming. He used proxies, layered routes. It's like following footprints through a storm. Elena set 3 mugs of coffee on the table. "Naomi, you've been staring at that screen for 6 hours. Rest." "I'm fine, Mom." "She's right," Adrian added, surprising himself. "We push too hard, we make mistakes. Exhaustion wrecked enough already." Naomi raised an eyebrow. "Is this the same man who used to grind through 30-hour stretches?" Adrian gave a wry smile. "That man lost everything. I'm trying something different." They paused for a quick meal, casserole reheated in a chipped dish, eaten at a wobbly table. Elena insisted Adrian eat. The simple domestic scene felt almost unreal. He couldn't remember the last time he'd shared dinner without a spreadsheet between them. "Mr. Cole," Elena ventured gently, "why did you build all this? What were you chasing?" Adrian stared into his coffee. "I grew up with nothing," he said. "My father scrubbed floors in office buildings. My mother cleaned houses." He stopped, realizing what he'd admitted. He looked at Elena, seeing the parallel for the first time. I spent my life trying to outrun where I came from, he continued. I thought success meant distance, from mop buckets, from worn hands, from people like my parents. He glanced around her cozy apartment. From people like you. And now? Elena asked softly. Adrian exhaled. Now I'm in your kitchen eating leftovers, realizing the person who gutted my life grew up wealthy, and the people helping me rebuild are the ones I never bothered to see. He met her eyes. I'm sorry, Elena, for every time I ignored you, for treating you like part of the scenery instead of a human being. She reached across and patted his hand. We all learn in our own time, Mr. Cole. What matters is who we choose to be now. Naomi watched, her view of Adrian shifting. She'd expected to dislike him, helping only because her mother asked. But his humility, his sincere regret, complicated that. Okay, she said, pushing back her chair. I think I know how to track Marcus properly. It'll mean finding backup servers your company pretends don't exist. Adrian frowned. There aren't any. Everything was centralized. Everything you knew about, Naomi countered. But any decent IT director keeps emergency backups off-grid. I'd bet Ethan Grady has them hidden. If we locate his stash, we'll have clean logs of every action Marcus took. Undisturbed, time-stamped, court-friendly. How do we find them? Adrian asked. We ask Ethan, Naomi replied. He won't help, Adrian said. He works for Marcus now. Does he? Naomi pulled up Ethan's file. According to this, he submitted a resignation 2 days after you were forced out. HR never processed it fully, but he stopped showing up. Doesn't sound like someone thrilled with the new regime. The next morning, they tracked Ethan to a small independent coffee shop downtown. He sat alone in the corner, dark circles under his eyes, fingers worrying a cardboard cup. When Adrian approached, Ethan stiffened, guilt and fear flickering across his face. Mr. Cole, I'm not here to yell, Adrian said, sliding into the chair opposite. I need your help. Ethan glanced nervously around. I can't be seen with you. Marcus made it very clear what happens to anyone who crosses him. Did he threaten you? Adrian asked. Ethan's silence answered. Naomi took the seat beside Adrian. Mr. Grady, do you have off-site backups? Somewhere Marcus doesn't know about? Ethan blinked. Who are you? Someone trying to fix what your boss destroyed, she said. Those backups could hold evidence Marcus can't scrub. We need access. Ethan's hands shook. If I help and Marcus finds out, I'm done. Not just fired, blacklisted. I'll never work in tech again. And if you don't, Adrian said quietly, you'll live knowing you let him get away with it. You tried to warn me. I ignored you. That's on me. But you have a chance to make this count. Don't let fear decide. Ethan stared into his coffee for a long moment, then scribbled on a napkin. There's a storage facility in Newark, Unit 247. Backup arrays there. You'll need this code. He wrote a long numeric string beneath the whole address. Thank you, Adrian said earnestly. I should have done more, Ethan whispered. I saw the access patterns changing. I should have forced you to listen. We both failed, Adrian said. Let's make sure that failure leads somewhere better. The storage facility was a hulking concrete block in a forgotten industrial strip, the kind of place people left things they didn't want found. They located Unit 247 on the 3rd floor. Inside, amid dusty boxes and old furniture, 3 server towers hummed quietly in the gloom. Naomi got to work immediately, tethering her laptop to the first tower. This is everything, she breathed. Every email, access log, code push from the last 2 years. Can you prove Marcus planted the malware? Adrian asked. Give me some time. Naomi's fingers flew. I need to cross-reference these logs with the malware signature, line them up with Marcus's credentials and session windows. It's like assembling a 1,000-piece puzzle blindfolded. Hours crawled. Elena fetched sandwiches from a deli down the street. Adrian paced the cramped unit, feeling useless for the first time in his life. He'd always been the smartest person in the room. Now, everything depended on a self-taught coder in her mid-20s. Got it, Naomi finally said, voice vibrating with adrenaline. Mr. Cole, come here. On screen, a clean timeline charted every one of Marcus's moves, each unauthorized access, each file alteration, every covert message to outside firms. The evidence was exhaustive and undeniable. Marcus had dismantled Cole Quantum from within, sold its secrets, and orchestrated Adrian's fall with surgical accuracy. Will this hold up in court? Adrian asked. It should, Naomi replied. These are official company logs, time-stamped. If we verify the backup's authenticity, this is devastating. For the first time in weeks, hope felt solid rather than fragile. Adrian looked at Naomi, this extraordinary young woman who'd stepped into his wreckage and refused to back down. Humility washed over him. Naomi, he said carefully, when this is over, when we expose Marcus, I want to rebuild. Not the same soulless machine, something better, something that matters. He took a breath. And I want you as my partner, not an assistant, not an employee, a true equal in whatever comes next. Naomi stared, stunned. Mr. Cole, I haven't even finished my degree, she protested. You don't need a framed certificate, Adrian said. You need integrity and vision. You've got both. I spent decades thinking success meant corner offices and private jets. I was wrong. He glanced at Elena, whose eyes shone. Real success means building something worthwhile with people who actually care about the impact. Will you help me do that? Naomi looked to her mother. Elena nodded, tears slipping free. This is your call, sweetheart. I'm proud either way. I don't trust corporate culture, Naomi admitted. I've watched what it does. It chews people up. Then help me create a version that deserves your trust, Adrian said. No shark-filled boardrooms, no crushing competitors just because we can, just honest innovation with real guardrails. If I rebuild, I want to do it right. Naomi extended her hand. Equal partners. Equal say on every decision. Adrian clasped it firmly. Equal partners, he agreed. Over the next 2 weeks, they camped at Elena's apartment, refining evidence and crafting their case. Adrian reached out to a lawyer he respected, someone who'd left corporate defense work for civil rights because, as she'd once joked, she wanted to sleep through the night. Monica Hale listened to their story, fury sharpening her usually calm features. Marcus Lang did all this? She asked. I always knew he was ambitious, but this is criminal. Can we win? Adrian asked. With this evidence? Yes, Monica said. But you need to be ready. Marcus will go scorched earth. He'll attack your sanity, your competence, your past. Let him, Adrian replied. I've already lost everything that mattered. Not everything, Monica said, eyes flicking to Naomi. He'll come after you, too. He'll say you hacked company property, planted evidence, tried to extort him. It won't be pretty. Naomi lifted her chin. I can handle it. I hope so, Monica said. Because once we file, there's no backing out. They filed the suit the next day. The media explosion was immediate. Disgraced CEO alleges conspiracy. Cole fights ex-partner over sabotage claims. Tech feeds lit up. Marcus held a press conference hours later, standing before reporters with the wounded dignity of a falsely accused saint. "These allegations are absurd," he declared. "Adrian Cole is a desperate man inventing scapegoats for his own mismanagement. The courts will see through this." Behind the scenes, though, Marcus panicked. His lawyers flooded the court with motions to suppress the logs, claiming the servers were accessed illegally. They argued Naomi had no authority to retrieve corporate data, that Adrian's privileges were revoked, that the evidence was tainted. "They're scared," Monica said in a strategy meeting. "Innocent people want more evidence. Guilty ones try to bury it." A preliminary hearing was set for 6 weeks out. While they waited, Adrian and Naomi started rebuilding in the only way that felt right: small and honest. They contacted laid-off Cole Quantum staff, engineers, designers, analysts. "We can't pay you yet," Adrian told the group gathered in Elena's living room. "At all, honestly. But I can offer equity in something new. Something anchored in integrity, not ego. If you believe in second chances, for this tech and for ME, help us build it." To his surprise, many stayed. They worked first from Elena's apartment, then from a rented garage when space ran out. Naomi led technical development while Adrian handled business, this time listening more than speaking. He learned names, birthdays, stories. He brought coffee, took out trash, stayed late to help clean. Elena watched with quiet pride as her daughter commanded respect from seasoned engineers, and as Adrian transformed from aloof executive into someone who treated leadership as service. "You're doing good, baby," Elena told Naomi one night, stacking pizza boxes. "I'm terrified," Naomi admitted. "What if I'm not enough? What if I let everyone down?" "Then you learn and try again," Elena said. "Success isn't never falling. It's stubbornly getting up." The algorithm they built was lean and principled. Instead of ruthless, profit-at-any-cost predictions, it prioritized ethical investments, flagging companies abusing workers or wrecking the environment. It favored long-term stability over short-term spikes, even when that meant lower immediate returns. "Investors want maximum profit, not moral lectures," one developer warned. "Then we'll find different investors," Adrian replied. "People who understand that real sustainability needs more than quarterly wins." The first backer was a small nonprofit focused on ethical finance, offering just enough to keep them afloat. A tech blogger spotlighted their project, praising their blend of advanced modeling and ethics. The piece went viral, drawing curious investors and supporters. Momentum built just as the court date loomed closer, and on the morning of the trial, everything came to a head. The day dawned unnaturally cold, as if the city sensed what was coming. Adrian stood before his hotel mirror, adjusting a borrowed tie, looking leaner, older, but more present than the billionaire who once ruled boardrooms. In court, Marcus's attorney rose smoothly. "Your Honor, what we have here is not conspiracy," he began, "but a fallen executive spinning fantasies to escape responsibility. We'll present time-stamped logs, internal messages, and forensic data proving Mr. Lang intentionally seeded malware, leaked trade secrets to rivals, and engineered Mr. Cole's ouster from the very company he created," Monica told the jury. She moved toward the jurors, meeting each gaze. "You'll hear from Naomi Williams, a young specialist whose skill and courage uncovered what seasoned experts overlooked. You'll see evidence Mr. Lang tried desperately to erase. You'll realize this case isn't about wounded pride or petty revenge," she finished. It's about what happens when powerful people weaponize their influence and betray the trust placed in them. The room felt charged. The first day focused on pure technical groundwork. Cybersecurity specialists outlining server logs, encryption layers, and the breach timeline. Adrian watched Marcus carefully, noting how his former partner sat relaxed, occasionally whispering to his lawyer, radiating smug confidence. Day 2 brought human witnesses. Former Cole Quantum employees described Marcus's behavior before the crash. His sudden fascination with security systems, secretive after-hours logins, and closed-door meetings that somehow never included Adrian. Patterns emerged, subtle but unmistakable. Mr. Lang was always driven, testified Sarah Mitchell, a former project lead. But after Mr. Cole announced the new AI platform, Marcus's whole attitude shifted. He complained constantly that Adrian took credit for everyone else's brilliance. He'd make these comments half-joking about how the company needed new leadership to really thrive, she continued. It felt like he was slowly turning people against Adrian, testing our loyalties piece by piece. On cross, Victor Blackwell pounced. Ms. Mitchell, isn't it accurate that you were let go from Cole Quantum for performance issues? I was laid off when Marcus took control, alongside 40 other people, she answered evenly. Laid off, fired, call it what you like, Blackwell said smoothly. You resent Mr. Lang, don't you? Sarah's jaw tightened. I resent being collateral damage in his plan to steal a company, she replied, voice steady. The back and forth turned brutal. Blackwell twisted words, highlighted inconsistencies, pushed every witness until their confidence frayed. By afternoon recess, strain etched the faces of those who'd come to support Adrian's case. That was exactly Marcus's strategy. They're trying to grind us down, Naomi murmured during a hallway break. Make everyone so exhausted they'd rather forget than fight. Adrian nodded. Then we refuse to break. Tomorrow you testify. Show them what real backbone looks like. That night, Marcus's camp escalated. When Adrian returned to his hotel, an unmarked envelope waited under the door. Inside, a single glossy photo showed Naomi leaving a campus bar, framed to look compromising. A typed note accompanied it. Withdraw your lawsuit, or the world learns about your employees' extracurricular activities. Adrian's hands trembled with anger. He called Monica immediately. Within half an hour, she arrived with Naomi and Elena. Naomi studied the image under the lamp. It's doctored, she said flatly. The face is mine, but the body, lighting, proportions, they're wrong. Someone spliced my head onto another woman's photo. Can you prove that? Monica asked. Easily, Naomi replied. But that's not really the point, is it? This isn't about truth. It's psychological warfare. They want fear to do what evidence couldn't. They threatened you, Adrian said, voice tight. They're coming after you personally because they know you're our linchpin. And we'll make them regret it, Monica said, sliding the envelope into a folder. This is witness intimidation, clear as day. We bring it to Judge Morrison first thing, she added. Across the room, Elena stayed silent, worry etched deep. Maybe we should reconsider, she whispered. These people are dangerous, Naomi. They don't fight fair. If we walk away now, they win forever, Naomi said, taking her mother's hands. They'll keep crushing anyone who resists, because everyone's too scared. You raised me to stand up when something's wrong. That hasn't changed. Tears glistened in Elena's eyes as she hugged her daughter tight. I know, she said hoarsely. I just wish the world wasn't so brutal to people trying to do the right thing. The next morning, Monica presented the envelope in chambers. both legal teams present. Judge Catherine Morrison's expression turned icy as she examined the photo and note. "Mr. Blackwell," she said, voice like steel, "does your client know anything about this?" "Absolutely not, Your Honor," Blackwell replied smoothly. "This is clearly the act of some fanatic supporter, not—" "Spare me," the judge snapped. "You have until close of business to identify the source. If anyone linked to your team is involved, I'll refer criminal charges." "Are we perfectly clear?" she added. "Yes, Your Honor," Blackwell muttered. Judge Morrison surveyed the room. "Let me be explicit. Any further attempts to menace or manipulate witnesses will bring immediate sanctions. This is a courtroom, not a back alley brawl." When Naomi took the stand later that morning, tension crackled in the air. She wore a simple navy dress, curls pulled back, minimal makeup Elena insisted on to offset the harsh camera lights. She looked young, but unshaken. Her hands were steady as she swore the oath. Monica began gently, establishing Naomi's background. "Ms. Williams, tell the court about your studies in computer science." "I'm in my 3rd year at a community college," Naomi replied clearly. "My focus is computer systems and cybersecurity. I've also completed multiple advanced online certifications in network defense and digital forensics." "What first drew you into this field?" Monica asked. A small smile tugged at Naomi's mouth. "When I was 15, my mom's bank account got hacked," she said. "We lost $300 we desperately needed. I started teaching myself tech basics so I could track what happened. I traced the breach, turned everything over to the FBI, and we eventually got reimbursed. That experience hooked me. I realized understanding digital systems meant protecting people like my mom." "How did you become involved in Mr. Cole's case?" Monica asked. "My mother cleans his home," Naomi answered. "After his company imploded, she worried about him and asked me to see whether anything from his system could be salvaged. Once I started digging into the corrupted data, it was obvious the failure wasn't random. The collapse wasn't some unfortunate glitch. It was engineered, meticulous, deliberate sabotage, not an accident." She spoke plainly, without dramatics. Monica guided her step by step through the technical trail. How she identified the malware signature, traced access routes, and built a timeline of Marcus's actions. Naomi translated jargon into clear, relatable analogies. Never talking down to the jury, she stayed calm, concise, and precise. When Monica finished, the jury genuinely seemed to understand the digital puzzle. Then Victor Blackwell rose, adjusting his cufflinks, expression oozing condescension. "Ms. Williams," he began, "you're 21, correct?" "Yes," Naomi answered. "And you attend a community college, not, say, MIT or Stanford." "That's right," she replied evenly. "You couldn't afford a 4-year university, could you?" "Objection," Monica snapped. "Relevance? Establishing qualifications, Your Honor." "Overruled," Judge Morrison said. "But keep it brief, Mr. Blackwell." He smiled smugly. "Ms. Williams, you hold no formal degree, no brand-name professional credentials, and no full-time cybersecurity job, correct?" "I hold multiple advanced online certifications," Naomi said. "Self-paced courses anyone with a laptop can complete," Blackwell countered. "Not quite equivalent to a top-tier degree, wouldn't you agree?" Naomi's face didn't flicker. "Some of the world's best engineers are self-taught. Paper credentials don't guarantee competence. Results do." "Results," Blackwell echoed with a chuckle. "You're testifying about incredibly complex enterprise systems based largely on training from online content. Tell me, Ms. Williams, who's compensating you for this testimony?" "No one," Naomi replied, I'm not being paid." "Really?" Blackwell pressed. "Because you're listed as a partner in Mr. Cole's new venture, Amara Technologies. That sounds like generous payment in exchange for painting my client as a villain." "I'm a partner because I helped design and rebuild the technology," Naomi said. "Not because I agreed to testify. That decision came later." "How remarkably convenient," Blackwell sneered. He paced slowly before the witness stand. "Let's discuss how you obtained this so-called evidence. You accessed company servers without authorization, didn't you?" "I accessed backup systems using information provided by the former IT director," Naomi answered. "Backups that stored critical logs. Backups that were still corporate property," Blackwell stressed. "Property you had no formal legal right to touch, correct?" "The company had been stolen from its rightful owner through illegal means," Naomi said. "I was helping recover proof of that theft." "That isn't your call to make," Blackwell snapped. "You're not an attorney, a judge, or federal law enforcement. You're a young woman playing vigilante hacker, barging into protected systems because you assumed you knew better." Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Judge Morrison rapped her gavel. "Mr. Blackwell, tone," she warned. He pivoted. "Your mother works for Mr. Cole as a housekeeper, correct? I imagine she was devastated when his fortune vanished. Did she beg you to help him? Maybe suggest there'd be financial gain if you could fabricate a convenient conspiracy." Naomi's composure finally shifted, not with anger, but with fierce conviction. "My mother is the most honest person I know," she said. "She taught me character is measured by what you do when nobody's watching. She spent decades cleaning up after people who never bothered to learn her name. She deserves better than your insinuations." "So no," Naomi continued, voice steady. "She didn't push me to lie. She raised me to tell the truth even when it's dangerous or inconvenient. That's exactly what I'm doing right now." The room fell silent. Even Blackwell looked momentarily unsettled. Naomi pressed on. "You're right that I'm young. You're right I don't have prestigious diplomas, but I read code the way musicians read sheet music. I see patterns where others see gibberish. What I saw in Cole Quantum Systems wasn't random. It was intentional sabotage, with Mr. Lang's digital fingerprints embedded throughout. You can attack my resume all day, but it doesn't change what the data reveals." Blackwell stiffened. "No further questions," he said, retreating. Monica rose for redirect. "Ms. Williams, could you explain to the jury what a digital signature is in programming terms?" "It's like a fingerprint in code," Naomi answered. "Every developer has quirks, how they name variables, structure functions, comment their work, handle errors. Those habits form a pattern, as unique as handwriting." "And did you find Mr. Lang's digital signature in the malicious code?" Monica asked. "Not once," Naomi said. "Dozens of times across multiple modules, all time-stamped during periods when Mr. Lang alone had the high-level access. How likely is it someone else perfectly mimicked his style at precisely those times?" "Statistically," Naomi replied, "the odds are essentially zero." Monica displayed enlarged code samples on screens around the courtroom, highlighted sections glowing. "Ms. Williams, walk us through what the jury is seeing." "These are 3 separate malware segments planted months apart," Naomi explained. "Notice the identical variable patterns, same comment phrasing, same unusual error handling structure. This isn't random similarity. It's one coder repeating their style again and again." Jurors leaned in, squinting at the highlighted lines. Even those without technical backgrounds could see the repeating shapes and phrases. "Thank you, Ms. Williams," Monica said. No further questions. Naomi stepped down, passing close to Marcus's table. Marcus glared at her openly now, polish gone, resentment blazing. Naomi met his stare without hesitation, then took her seat beside Adrian. "You were extraordinary," Adrian whispered. "I just told the truth clearly," she replied. "That's all." The trial stretched 3 more days. Independent experts corroborated Naomi's analysis. An FBI cybercrime agent testified the backup logs were authentic and properly preserved. Former staff described Marcus panicking after the breach, frantically purging drives and shredding documents. When Marcus finally testified, Monica dismantled his story piece by piece. Every excuse clashed with hard evidence. Every alibi unraveled. He claimed the logs were forged, but couldn't explain how. Suggested Adrian framed him, but offered 0 actual proof. By the time he stepped down, even his own attorneys looked shaken. Closing arguments were crisp. Monica laid out a simple, devastating timeline of betrayal, backed by irrefutable records. Blackwell tried to conjure doubt, but his arguments felt thin. Judge Morrison instructed the jury carefully and sent them to deliberate. 24 tense hours later, they returned. "Have you reached a verdict?" she asked. "We have, Your Honor," the foreperson replied, holding a folded sheet of paper. "On the charge of corporate sabotage. How do you find the defendant?" "Guilty." "On the charge of theft of proprietary information?" "Guilty." "On the count of fraud?" "Guilty." The courtroom erupted in shocked whispers and gasps. Marcus went almost gray, knuckles white on the defense table. His lawyers scrambled, muttering about appeals. But Judge Morrison's gavel cracked sharply. "Mr. Lang, this court finds you guilty on all counts. Sentencing will occur 3 weeks from today. You will surrender your passport and submit to electronic monitoring immediately," she continued. Then she turned to Adrian. "Regarding the civil claims, the court rules entirely in your favor. Full ownership of the algorithm and related intellectual property returns to you, along with damages totaling." Adrian stood. "Your Honor, if I may." She eyed him. "Briefly, Mr. Cole. I don't want the damages," he said. "I'd like the funds directed to scholarships for under-resourced students pursuing technology, students like Naomi, who have the talent but not the access." A faint smile softened the judge's features. "A commendable request. The court approves that designation. Anything further?" "Yes," Adrian said. "I ask that Ms. Naomi Williams be recognized as co-creator of the algorithm in the official record. Her contribution is undeniable." "Granted," Judge Morrison said. "Ms. Williams, congratulations." Outside, reporters swarmed as they exited the courthouse, microphones thrust forward. Adrian paused briefly. "Justice wasn't just served for me today," he said. "It was served for everyone ever told they didn't matter. This outcome belongs to a young woman who refused to be dismissed," he added, nodding toward Naomi, "and to a mother who taught her that integrity outweighs comfort. Thank you." They slipped away before more questions could fly. That night should have been pure celebration. But Adrian felt uneasy. Marcus had been too composed at the verdict, not devastated, not enraged, calculating. Men like him didn't surrender. They regrouped. Adrian's instincts soon proved right. At 2 a.m., his phone shrilled. Monica's voice was taut. "Adrian, there's been a break-in. Someone hit Amara Technologies. The alarm tripped, police responded, but the intruders escaped before they were cornered." Adrian was dressed and moving seconds later. He arrived to flashing patrol lights painting the building red and blue. Inside, Desks were overturned, drawers rifled, server rack doors hanging open, cables severed. It didn't look like theft. It looked like a threat. A warning. Naomi stood amid the wreckage, laptop clutched to her chest, face pale but resolute. Elena had an arm wrapped protectively around her shoulders, eyes blazing. They were hunting our evidence backups, Naomi said as Adrian approached. They wrecked the main server array, but they didn't find what they wanted. Because you moved everything, Adrian guessed. Naomi nodded faintly. Because I never keep a single point of failure. Triple encrypted drives in 3 locations, plus redundant cloud mirrors. She managed a tired grin. Paranoia starts looking wise once people actually come after you. Detective Carla Rivera, no relation despite sharing Elena's accent, took statements. We captured footage of 2 masked suspects. Gloves, professional movements. This wasn't random vandalism. We're treating it as a targeted operation, Rivera continued. Someone hired them, Mr. Lang, Adrian said immediately. We can't claim that yet, Rivera cautioned. But given the timing, he's absolutely on our radar. Electronic monitoring shows he stayed home, but that proves very little. What should we do? Elena asked. Stay alert, Rivera said. We'll increase patrols. I'd also suggest private security for all 3 of you until we have suspects in custody. After the officers left, the trio sat amid overturned chairs and scattered papers. Dawn smeared gray and pink across the shattered blinds. He's not done, Naomi said quietly. The verdict didn't end anything for him. He'll keep pushing, trying to scare us back into silence. Then we make hiding impossible, Adrian replied. He pulled out his phone and drafted a detailed account for every journalist in his contacts. Within hours, major outlets blasted the headline, Convicted Saboteur Linked to Break-In at Victim's New Company. Public outrage was immediate. Social feeds flooded with support for Amara Technologies and demands that authorities clamp down harder on Marcus. By noon, the FBI had opened a new investigation into potential witness retaliation and conspiracy. Marcus's attorneys issued a statement denying involvement, blaming unknown extremists. But investors abandoned him in droves. Remaining partners severed ties. Firms that had bought his stolen tech now faced their own legal storms. His empire crumbled in days. That evening, as Adrian helped Naomi and Elena straighten the office, his phone buzzed with a blocked number. Cole, he answered. You ruined me, Marcus rasped. His voice sounded frayed, stripped of charm. Everything I built is gone. You ruined yourself, Adrian said. I just made your choices visible. I made you, Marcus snarled. Without me, you'd still be chasing small contracts. Without you, I'd still have my soul, Adrian replied. We could have built something honorable. Don't preach to me, Marcus snapped. You were just as cutthroat as I was. Only difference is you got lucky. No, Adrian said calmly. The difference is I learned from the collapse. You're still blaming everyone but the man in your mirror. Silence stretched. Then a harsh laugh. You think this is over. I've still got friends, money, moves you can't see. Then use them to become better, Adrian said. If you keep swinging, you'll only lose what little remains. He hung up. Was that him? Naomi asked. Yeah, Adrian said. Anything we should worry about? Nothing worth repeating, he answered. Our best answer is the same. Keep building. Make what we create so strong his resentment becomes background noise. Over the next 2 weeks, they rebuilt the office, upgraded security, and threw themselves into work. The verdict story continued to circulate, drawing unexpected opportunities. Universities requested Naomi as a guest lecturer. Investors approached with clean offers. Former Cole Quantum employees, disillusioned by what had happened, reached out wanting to join Amara Technologies. But the most powerful moment came when Elena's name was officially added as co-founder to the corporate charter. Monica presented the papers in a small ceremony. From today forward, Monica announced, Amara Technologies is legally recognized as founded by Adrian Cole, Naomi Williams, and Elena Williams. Equal equity, equal authority. Elena's hands shook as she held the document, tears streaking down her cheeks. I've spent my life cleaning other people's offices, she whispered. I never imagined my name on one. You've always been more than your job, Naomi said, hugging her. You raised me, sheltered Adrian, kept us grounded. This company carries your spirit. Adrian nodded. Amara Technologies exists because you opened your home when mine disappeared. This is just the world catching up to what we already knew. Surrounded by their small but growing team, they felt something richer than victory, belonging. Months turned into half a year. Adrian stood outside their new permanent headquarters, a renovated community center in a working-class neighborhood. Not a gleaming skyscraper, but a brick building with history and big windows spilling sunlight across the street. What do you think? Naomi asked. Blueprints tucked under her arm. It feels honest, Adrian said, like a real place for real people. Renovations had become a neighborhood project. Local contractors working alongside staff, teaching teens construction and tech skills. Elena insisted on inclusive hiring, valuing potential over polished resumes. The result was a team humming with energy and diverse perspectives. A sharp contrast to the homogeneous halls of Adrian's old company. The grand opening stunned him. Former colleagues, curious investors, and reporters filled the courtyard. More importantly, 50 scholarship recipients, students from overlooked communities, sat in the front rows. Their tuition was funded by the damages Adrian had redirected after the trial. Naomi stepped behind the podium, looking both nervous and luminous in a simple gray suit. The murmurs faded as she began. 6 months ago, I was juggling community college classes and barista shifts to help my mom cover rent, she said. Today, I'm standing here as CEO of a tech company trying to redefine what ethical innovation looks like. She let that sink in. But this isn't just my story. It's ours. Everyone society underestimated. We've all been told we're not enough, not polished enough, not credentialed enough, not connected enough, she continued. Amara Technologies exists to prove talent isn't born from privilege. It's born from opportunity and persistence. She gestured to the scholarship students. These 50 represent everything we believe in. Bright minds who were always worthy, but rarely invited. Our program fully funds their education, pairs them with mentors, and guarantees internships here. Because we're not just constructing a company, Naomi said. We're building a pipeline for innovators who might otherwise be invisible. Applause crashed through the courtyard. Adrian watched from stage left, heart full, seeing his younger self in awe of her. Elena spoke next. Most of my life, I've been unseen, she said. I cleaned offices when they were empty, wiped desks for people who never learned my name. The world treated my work as disposable. But my daughter never saw me that way, she continued. And now, having my name on this building isn't about ego. It's a reminder that every person, no matter their job, deserves respect and recognition. She looked toward Adrian. This company is named Amara Technologies not just for me, but for what the name stands for: dignity, respect, the belief that everyone deserves to be seen. If we can succeed while honoring that, she finished, then our impact will outlast any balance sheet. When Adrian took the mic, he ditched his prepared remarks and spoke from experience, voice roughened by perspective. "I built my first company on ego and hunger," he said. "I judged success by profit margins and office views. I hired for pedigree and fired for quarterly dips, and I lost everything because I forgot people. Companies don't thrive because of genius CEOs," Adrian continued. "They thrive because of talented people pulling together toward meaningful goals. I had to watch my empire implode to finally understand that." He motioned to Naomi and Elena. "These women pulled me out of my own arrogance," he said. "They showed me leadership is service, that ideas are richer when they come from many voices, and that profit should follow purpose, not replace it. Amara Technologies will stand or fall based on whether we honor that," he concluded, "and I promise you, we intend to." The crowd surged to its feet, applause echoing through the refurbished hall. Throughout the evening, people shared stories with Adrian. One young woman approached. "Mr. Cole, I'm Emma Lawson. I used to be a junior attorney at Cole Quantum." He frowned slightly. "I'm sorry, I don't quite—" "You wouldn't," Emma said kindly. "You walked by my desk every day for 2 years without a hello. When I flagged contract irregularities, your assistant said you didn't have time for rookie concerns." Shame tightened Adrian's chest. "I was unbelievably arrogant," he said. Emma shrugged. "So was I. I thought success meant clawing upward at any cost. I left corporate law after your trial, joined a civil rights nonprofit. I make less, but I sleep." "So why come tonight?" Adrian asked. "To see if you'd changed," Emma replied. She glanced around at the diverse crowd, scholarship students, local families. "Turns out, you really did. That gives me hope for all of us." Similar conversations unfolded all night. Ex-employees spoke about reevaluating their own choices. Investors discussed shifting funds toward mission-driven ventures. Students shared dreams with newfound confidence. Adrian felt something he'd never had at his old company: genuine connection. Later, he found Naomi in her office, surrounded by whiteboards dense with diagrams and code. "You were phenomenal today," he said from the doorway. "We were," she corrected, eyes still on her screen. "This place belongs to all of us." "What are you working on now?" he asked. "Next-gen safeguards," Naomi replied. "If we're licensing our algorithm, I want ironclad guardrails, so it can't be twisted into predatory tools. Our tech should protect people, not exploit them." Adrian settled into a chair. "When we met, I pegged you as a bright kid who could debug my laptop. I never imagined you'd completely rewire how I understand leadership and success." Naomi finally looked up, smiling faintly. "And I pegged you as another entitled billionaire getting what he deserved," she said. "Turns out we misjudged each other. Maybe the big takeaway is we're all wrong until we really look." The first year flew. Their ethical AI drew steady interest. They licensed it only to companies that passed rigorous reviews. Several major corporations failed that test. Naomi refused to budge, despite the staggering checks they waived. "We just walked away from $3 million, a financial advisor complained. "And avoided selling our soul for it," Naomi replied. "Their record with user data is awful. I'm not helping them optimize exploitation." Adrian backed her without hesitation. "We reject any deal that clashes with our principles," he told the board. "Non-negotiable." Some investors grumbled and left. Others stayed, drawn by consistency. Slowly, Amara Technologies earned a reputation for meaning every word it said. Profits were modest compared to tech giants, but clean and steady. The scholarship program expanded from 50 students to over 200, offering mentorships, internships, and a clear pipeline into meaningful tech roles, especially for those traditional hiring had ignored. Naomi, now 26, became a regular on conference stages, speaking about ethical AI and her journey from community college to CEO. She never sanitized her background. Instead, she leaned into it, proving success doesn't require privilege, just opportunity, grit, and allies. Elena embraced a public role she'd once feared. She led community outreach, forging partnerships with local schools, launching adult retraining programs, and ensuring the company remained woven into the neighborhood's fabric instead of floating above it. "We don't just extract talent and money from this community," she told a local reporter. "We invest right back. These folks are our neighbors. Their stability is tied to ours. That's the relationship we want." Adrian's role evolved. He handled operations and investor relations, but no longer dominated conversations. Instead, he facilitated, listened, and amplified others' ideas. Collaboration demanded more effort than command and control, but the results, and his own peace, were infinitely richer. 3 years post-trial. Stanford's business school invited him back to speak. Standing before sharp-eyed MBAs, Adrian smiled ruefully. "Last time I was here, I told a very different story about winning," he began. "I said you needed to be the smartest in the room, the most relentless, willing to sacrifice anything for profit. I called compassion a liability." He paused. "I was catastrophically wrong." He described losing everything: Naomi's intervention, Elena's compassion, the rebirth of Amara Technologies. "The company I run now generates a fraction of my old revenue," he said, "yet it creates exponentially more real-world value. We hire people others overlook. We build tech that improves systems instead of simply extracting money. We count success in lives changed, not just dollars stacked." A student raised a hand. "Isn't that approach naive? How do you compete with ruthless companies?" she asked. "By redefining competition," Adrian answered. "We're not chasing domination or annihilating rivals. We're proving ethical business is viable business. And more investors and customers want that every year." Another student asked, "What about when ethics and profit collide?" "We pick ethics," Adrian said simply. Interestingly, that choice often drives better long-term performance. Integrity attracts loyal customers, committed employees, and patient backers. Exploitation burns bright, then burns out. Afterward, students crowded around asking how to build careers without abandoning their values. Adrian realized this generation was hungry for a different playbook, one that measured impact alongside income. He felt cautiously optimistic about where they might carry the torch. Meanwhile, Marcus received his sentence: 5 years in federal prison for sabotage, fraud, and IP theft. His assets were seized to repay damages. His name became a case study in business ethics courses nationwide. A cautionary tale. Adrian felt no triumph reading about it, only sadness. 2 men who could have built something extraordinary together had instead nearly destroyed each other. One learned from the fall, the other kept flailing downward. One afternoon, a letter arrived from Marcus's prison facility. It was short. Marcus admitted he'd acted from terror. Terror of being exposed as inadequate, of losing relevance, of watching Adrian realize he didn't need him. "I'm not asking forgiveness," the letter ended. "I don't deserve it. But watching you rebuild with integrity has taught me more about leadership than decades in boardrooms ever did." Adrian filed it away, unanswered. Some journeys were solitary. 5 years after the verdict, Amara Technologies was considered a model for ethical innovation. Their AI engine was licensed by dozens of conscientious companies. Their scholarship initiative had aided over 500 students with remarkable graduation and placement rates. Naomi, now 26, graced major tech magazine covers not as a token face, but as a respected designer reshaping the field. She refused lucrative offers from mega corporations, telling Adrian they want optics. Here, we actually live the values. Elena received civic awards for community uplift. The neighborhood flourished, new shops, safer streets, steady jobs. Amara Technologies had become a cornerstone, proving corporations could heal as well as harm. Adrian, now in his early 60s, thought constantly about legacy. Not legacy of buildings or titles, but of people empowered and principles preserved. And always, at the story's heart, remained a single moment. A quiet voice asking, "Can I take a look?" And a fallen man finally wise enough to say yes. Power without humility always cracks. If you're in your 60s or 70s, you've seen more than a few Adrian Coles in your lifetime, men who climbed so high they forgot what the ground looked like. Adrian believed real power meant never needing anyone below him. He had the view, the penthouse, the glass office, the billions on paper. Maybe it reminds you of executives you watched on the evening news, or a boss you once had who wouldn't remember your name if you passed him in the grocery store. His fall came fast. A hacked system, a partner's betrayal, a boardroom that turned on him in one brutal vote. But if we're honest, the cracks started long before the computers exploded. They began the day he decided the people who cleaned his floors and brewed his coffee didn't matter. The older we get, the clearer it becomes. The moment you think you're untouchable is the moment life starts quietly sharpening its lessons. Power without humility always, eventually, finds its breaking point. Lesson 2. The people you overlook may be the ones who save you. Many of us grew up watching our parents or grandparents work invisible jobs. Janitors, housekeepers, factory hands, bus drivers. They kept everything running but were rarely thanked. Elena, the housekeeper, belonged to that quiet army. For years, Adrian barely noticed her. She moved through his penthouse like a ghost, polishing his trophies while he took conference calls. Yet, in his worst hour, it was Elena who showed up with a cup of hot tea and genuine concern. And it was her daughter, Naomi, a community college coder with no fancy diploma, who crawled into the wreckage of his systems and found the truth. Think about that. Not the Ivy League engineers, not the polished board members, but a young woman everyone underestimated and a mother the world treated as background. Together, they uncovered the sabotage, broke into the company through the service entrance, and carried out the evidence that saved his name. If you've ever been overlooked, you know how that feels in your bones. This story reminds us that human worth isn't set by job titles or zip codes. Sometimes the hands that once emptied trash cans are the same hands that pull you back from the edge. Real success is measured by what you rebuild, not what you lose. By the time the courtroom dust settled, Adrian had every reason to grow bitter. He'd been humiliated on national television, stripped of his company, nearly ruined by the man he once called a friend. Folks our age know that kind of loss, maybe not in billions, but in jobs, marriages, health, or retirement savings that suddenly vanished. What makes Adrian's story different is what he chose to do with his second chance. instead of chasing another skyscraper. He sat at a wobbly kitchen table in a modest apartment and started over with Naomi and Elena as equal partners. They built a new company that refused to sell its soul for a bigger check, turned down shady investors, and wrote ethical guardrails directly into their code. The damages he won in court didn't go to another sports car or vacation home. They funded scholarships for kids like Naomi who just needed a shot. Years later, his legacy wasn't measured in square footage or stock price, but in hundreds of young people crossing graduation stages, in a neighborhood lifted by honest jobs, and in a company where the woman who once carried a vacuum now signs contracts as a co-founder. For those of us thinking about the mark we'll leave behind, Adrian's journey offers a gentle but firm reminder. What we cling to will die with us, but what we choose to rebuild with integrity can outlive us by generations. The story we hand to the next generation. If you're over 65, you've already handed down recipes, family stories, maybe a favorite set of tools or a quilt. But the most powerful inheritance isn't in a safety deposit box. It's the values our children and grandchildren see us living. Adrian's fall and redemption, Naomi's courage, and Elena's quiet strength show a pattern many elders recognize. Life will knock us flat, sometimes through no fault of our own. Yet we still have a say in who we become afterward. We can grow hard and bitter, or softer and wiser. We can cling to status or invest in people. This story invites each of us, in these later chapters of life, to ask a simple question. When my time is done, will people remember what I owned or the lives I quietly lifted when everything was on the line? Friends, after walking with Adrian, Naomi, and Elena through betrayal, loss, and rebuilding, I'd love to hear from you. At this stage of your life, what does real success mean to you now? Is it money, freedom, family, faith, the people you've helped, or something else entirely? If you were in Adrian's shoes, who in your life would you want standing beside you in the storm, and why? Share your thoughts in the comments, tap the like button, and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss the next story and the next set of life lessons